A smart woman in Islam understands that knowledge must come before action. She does not rush into life decisions based on emotions, culture, or social pressure. Instead, she seeks guidance from the Qur'an and the Sunnah before she makes any move. She knows that the Prophet Muhammad said, "Seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim estent, male and female alike." She takes this seriously. Her smartness is not defined by worldly degrees alone, but by how she applies the knowledge of Islam to navigate her life. She doesn't just want to know what's halal and haram, she wants to know why something is beneficial or harmful for her akhirah. She reflects on the verses of the Qur'an and strives to implement them. When a situation arises, whether it's about marriage, career, friendships, or how to deal with hardship, her first instinct is to ask, what does Allah want from me in this moment? Such a woman realizes that true intelligence is linked with taqwa, with consciousness of Allah. She is not impressed by material wealth or popularity. She is impressed by piety, humility, and obedience to Allah. She understands that seeking knowledge is a lifelong journey. Just because she wears the hijab or prays 5 times a day, she doesn't think she's reached the peak. Rather, she is constantly improving, learning more about her deen, deepening her understanding of the Qur'an, and refining her character. She doesn't make excuses for ignorance. If she doesn't know something, she asks, researches, and listens to scholars who are grounded in authentic knowledge. A smart woman doesn't allow ignorance to become a barrier to her growth. She studies the lives of the righteous women from Islamic history, Khadija, Aisha, Fatima, Maryam, and takes lessons from their examples. She knows that being smart isn't about being loud or argumentative. It's about being wise, thoughtful, and emotionally mature. She knows when to speak and when to stay silent, when to advise and when to leave the matter to Allah. That level of wisdom doesn't come from guesswork or personal opinion. It comes from sound Islamic knowledge. When she studies Islam, she does so with sincerity, not to prove someone wrong or to show off. Her goal is purification of the soul, not the admiration of people. She attends classes, listens to lectures, and reads books with the intention of drawing closer to her Creator. She avoids consuming random information online without verifying its source. She knows the danger of half knowledge. It can lead to misguidance. So she is careful, choosing scholars and teachers who follow the Qur'an and Sunnah upon the understanding of the righteous predecessors. In marriage, she doesn't look at surface-level traits. She doesn't say, he has a good job, he's tall, he's funny, and ignore his deen. She knows that the Prophet advised us to marry based on religion, because that's what lasts. She studies the rights and responsibilities in marriage, not just so she can demand her rights, but so she can fulfill her duties with ihsan. She understands that an Islamic marriage is a partnership based on mercy and mutual respect. That wisdom comes from knowledge, and knowledge brings balance. In raising her children, a smart woman doesn't leave their tarbiyah to the school system or the internet. She takes personal responsibility. She learns how the Prophet dealt with children, how he taught, how he loved, and how he corrected with compassion. She equips herself with the tools of knowledge so she can raise the next generation of Muslims with strength, clarity, and purpose. Even in the face of trials, a woman of knowledge doesn't panic. She recalls the verses about patience, the stories of the prophets, and the wisdom of Allah's timing. She doesn't say, why me? But says, Kan alhamdulillah ala kulli halat, and all praise is due to Allah in every circumstance. Because she has built her foundation on knowledge, her heart is firm. She doesn't fall apart easily. Her faith holds her up, and her understanding of Allah's names and attributes gives her peace when others are restless. She knows the world is full of noise, opinions, and confusion, but she also knows that when you seek the truth with a sincere heart, Allah will open the doors of wisdom. A smart woman, therefore, doesn't just follow her desires or the trends of society. She is guided by divine light. Her decisions are rooted in ilm. Her strength is not just in how she speaks, but in how deeply she understands her faith. That is true smartness in the sight of Allah. A smart woman in Islam knows that modesty is not just about what she wears. It's a complete way of life. She understands that modesty, or haya, is a core part of her identity as a believer. The Prophet Muhammad said, every religion has a distinct characteristic, and the characteristic of Islam is modesty. This means that modesty is not an option or a cultural practice. It is a sign of faith and a reflection of one's relationship with Allah. A smart woman embraces this truth. She wears her haya like a crown, with dignity and pride, knowing that it protects her, honors her, and raises her status in the sight of Allah. She knows that modesty begins in the heart. It shapes her speech, her behavior, her gaze, and the way she interacts with others. She is careful not to speak in a flirtatious or boastful manner, because she knows that her words have weight. She avoids attention-seeking behavior, not because she lacks confidence, but because she values herself too much to be treated like an object. Her worth is not in how many likes she gets, or how many people praise her beauty. Her worth is rooted in her obedience to Allah. She carries herself with humility, grace, and strength. That is the essence of haya. When it comes to dress, she doesn't compromise. She doesn't ask, how much can I show and still be considered modest? Instead, she asks, what pleases Allah the most? Her clothing is loose, not revealing, and it protects her dignity. She wears the hijab not as a fashion statement, but as a form of worship. Even if others criticize her, even if she is looked down upon or misunderstood, she remains firm. She knows that pleasing Allah is greater than pleasing creation. She remembers the verse where Allah says, "And tell the believing women to lower their gaze and guard their private parts, and not to show off their adornment." Surah An-Nur 431. These are not just words, they are commands from her Creator, and she takes them seriously. A smart woman also understands that modesty applies in private just as much as in public. She doesn't become two-faced, acting one way outside and another at home. Her haya is consistent. She avoids shameless media, vulgar jokes, and anything that desensitizes her heart to sin. Even when she is alone, she remembers that Allah sees her. This level of consciousness protects her from falling into hidden traps. She knows that true modesty means being shy before Allah, not wanting to displease Him even in the smallest matters. In her relationships, she sets clear boundaries. Whether at work, university, or in the community, she maintains professionalism and respect. She doesn't entertain unnecessary conversations with men, not because she's weak, but because she's wise. She protects her heart and her dignity. She knows that many problems start with a simple message or casual talk that slowly grows into something harmful. So she takes the safer route. She doesn't need validation from others. Her self-worth is rooted in her faith. She also teaches her children, her sisters, and her friends the value of haya, not through harshness, but through her own example. She makes modesty something beautiful, not burdensome. She shows that you can be confident, active, and intelligent while still being modest. The two are not opposites. In fact, they go hand in hand. A smart woman knows that modesty enhances her presence. It doesn't diminish it. People respect her not because she shows more skin, but because she carries herself with honor. Even in her worship, she maintains modesty. When she prays, she covers herself completely, standing before her Lord in humility. When she makes dua, she speaks from the heart, with shyness and love. She remembers the words of the Prophet. Modesty brings nothing but goodness. She believes in that. She knows that the more she protects her modesty, the more Allah elevates her. He blesses her with peace, strength, and contentment that the world cannot offer. A smart woman is not ashamed of being modest. She doesn't let the world make her feel backward or restricted. She knows that Islam honors women, and modesty is one of the greatest proofs of that. While others may chase attention, she chooses respect. While others may expose themselves to gain value, she hides her beauty, knowing that her value is already written by Allah. Her modesty is not weakness, it is her power. It is the shield that guards her from harm, the light that keeps her heart pure, and the path that leads her to Jannah. A smart woman in Islam understands the true value of time. She knows that time is one of the greatest blessings from Allah, and also one of the most misunderstood and wasted. She reflects on the words of the Prophet Muhammad, who said, "There are two blessings that many people are deceived about, health and free time." She takes this to heart. She does not allow her days to pass aimlessly or filled with distractions. She plans her life with intention and balance, making sure that every moment counts for something, whether it's for her deen, her family, her growth, or her akhirah. She begins her day remembering Allah. She wakes up for Fajr, not just to pray and go back to sleep, but to set the tone for a meaningful day. She knows that the early hours are full of barakah, as the Prophet made dua for it. "O Allah, bless my nation in their early mornings." She uses this time for recitation, reflection, or even organizing her tasks. A smart woman understands that productivity begins with spiritual grounding. If her heart is aligned with Allah, everything else will fall into place. She divides her time wisely. She fulfills her obligations toward her family, her work, her studies, and most importantly, her worship. She doesn't waste hours scrolling on her phone or getting caught up in useless talk. She knows that 1 hour can be the difference between growth and regret. She protects her time the way she protects her modesty, because both are linked to her self-respect. She's not available for every event, every conversation, or every distraction. She chooses her commitments with care. Even in her role as a mother, wife, or daughter, she organizes her duties with ihsan. She doesn't let the responsibilities overwhelm her, nor does she use them as excuses to neglect her personal goals. She schedules moments for learning, moments for self-care, and most importantly, moments for connection with Allah. Her day includes Qur'an, dhikr, and reflection. She finds her energy and motivation in remembering her purpose, to worship Allah and earn His pleasure. This purpose shapes how she treats time. She also understands that life is short. Every breath she takes brings her closer to the end. She doesn't wait for the perfect time to make changes or get closer to Allah. She acts now. She knows that regret will not benefit her in the grave, so she makes the most of today. Whether it's seeking knowledge, improving her prayer, fixing her character, or giving charity, she does what she can now, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. That's what makes her smart, her ability to prioritize what truly matters. When she rests with intention too. She doesn't feel guilty for taking breaks or enjoying halal recreation, but she makes sure those moments refresh her, not distract her from her goals. She avoids wasting time on shows or entertainment that add no value to her soul. She asks herself, will this bring me closer to Allah or further away? That question becomes her filter for how she spends her time. She also plans for the future. A smart woman doesn't just